Right. Thanks very much for that. Let's move on and go ahead and take the discussion forward with NielsenIQ. Roosevelt Dsouza is joining us now to talk more. Ever since he has given some commentary as per the research of Nielsen, we are actually hearing CEOs after CEOs quote that data that indeed in consumer space, FMCG in particular, there is signs of recovery in the rural side. Roosevelt, great to have you. Very good afternoon. We've been speaking to a lot of CEOs of companies after their fourth quarter results, and they have been talking about your report and your findings. So talk to us about what are the indicators and how durable do they appear of this recovery. You know, corporate India has been waiting for the rural recovery for a very long time.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay, for having me on this show. The Nielsen FMCG snapshot that we release every quarter does find a lot of traction in the marketplace, and a lot of our clients look forward to that report. And I'm happy to be on this show to share some of insights that really come from that vast exercise that we conduct on a daily basis. So what we are actually seeing is, this interplay that is happening. The kind of trends that we are seeing in FMCG is this rural catch up. In the last 5 quarters, after 5 quarters, we're actually seeing this divide or the gap between rural and urban. It is for the first time we're seeing rural move ahead of urban. And that is when you do a quarter on quarter, right, to the same period last year. I mean, sequentially, it is still urban remains ahead. And a lot of this growth that we are seeing, I mean, it's an exciting space to be watching today. A lot of this growth is really coming from small pack preferences, personal care categories. It's not really the food, but more so in the non-food that we are seeing some exciting times and actions that are happening in rural, you know.
Interesting. What categories, Roosevelt, are actually showing improvement, and can you tell us about what is the degree of improvement versus last few periods which you have analyzed this data for?
Yeah, I mean, the last quarter report is for the first 3 months of the calendar year, right? Jan, Feb, and March. I don't have all the factual numbers offhand, but what we are seeing in rural today is categories like personal care, right? It's a little less in home care, it's personal care. And if anything that is really pulled on rural, it is staples, right? So within food, we break food by, staples, impulse, and habit forming. Habit forming would be things like biscuit, tea, coffee, and all. We're seeing staples, which is a little suppressed. And even in rural, we're finding food, the habit forming categories like biscuit, they're still growing, as well as the impulse category. But when we move to the non-food, which is actually the biggest contributor to the growth in this quarter in rural, it has really come from the personal care categories, right? We are seeing toothpaste and toothbrush and all of those categories moving up in rural.
Roosevelt, you've been analyzing this data for a very long time. Whenever this kind of cyclical recoveries happen, can you tell us, are they durable? Do they carry on, or sometimes these recoveries are shallow and may not continue at the same pace? Just want to understand the quality of recovery we are talking about here.
I think we need to respond to that. Again, we've got to look at what's been happening over the last 3 to 4 years, right? The post-pandemic, the consumer behavior changed a lot, right? For instance, if you look at last year, a lot of the growth or the value growth in the overall FMCG category was driven by price. Okay, if you look at the MAT period till March of 23, a lot of that was driven by price, and it had an impact on volumes. So there was like a price growth of almost 8 to 9%, and volume growth was less about 0.4%. We're seeing that reversing this year in the last 12-month period up to March of 24. We're seeing the price is suppressed, right? Price is growing at 1%, and volume is growing at 7 odd percent. So you can see that this whole thing is almost reversed, right? It's turned the other way around. Now, what is important to see is whether this is going to continue, right? Certain categories and certain meta baskets doing well and certain pulling it down. So while food overall, we see it coming down, it's actually within food, it's the habit forming, the impulse categories is doing well. it is staples which is actually pulling it down. So when you look at it macro and when you actually get under the skin, you start delayering it, and then you start seeing actually there are certain categories where you see that K growth, right? You'll see some categories moving up, some going down.
All right, Roosevelt, we'll let you go on that one. Thanks so much for those very insightful opinion that there is definitely a recovery which is happening right now. We'll take a short.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.